So, I keep getting a lot of requests for this one ever since I posted the video the other day. But I guess it's about time I did share this with you guys, so here we go. Rolling cutter or axe boomerang build that I use for daily grinding. Let's start with the skills. So the skill that you'll be mainly using in this build is the axe boomerang. It was formerly named rolling cutter, but they changed it for some reason. For the first job skill points, you have to allocate them into slamming smash. For some reason, this is a prerequisite for rolling cutter, so this is a must. For the other skills, it's fine to put them anywhere else, but for me, I put them in cart revo, cart modification, enlarged weight limit, discount, and a bit of overcharge just to use the remaining skill points. So for the second job skill points, you're mainly just going to put these into your buffs. Max out your adrenaline rush, power thrust, maximize power, weapon perfection, weaponry research, and skin tempering. Then I just put the extra points into hammerfall. And for the Mastersmith skill points, you have to maximize the maximum overthrust, axe boomerang, and battle axe shuriken. Then you'll also need cart boost. Before the patch, I wasn't really using this, but now it has the ignore pdef plus 20% buff, so this is really very helpful when it comes to grinding. And for the remaining skill points, it doesn't matter where you put them, but for me, I just use it in the cart max load value. Other choices you have is to maximize either meltdown or the assault turret, but I don't really use these skills, mainly because I don't really use rolling cutter for PvP, and I don't have a good cannon fortification core that I can use for the assault turret. And also, since I can kill the mobs within a few hits using the rolling cutter, I don't see any more reason to use the assault turrets. But if you want to try using this in boss hunting or hunting tankier mobs, you can definitely put your skill points into the assault turret instead. Aside from the skills, another thing that I change every time I grind are my enchants. I changed my fighting spirit into a saved legendary bow preset. Since the rolling cutter is ranged, you benefit from the range speed damage percentage increase. But it's also fine if you don't have these, but of course if you do, this will help increase your rolling cutter's damage. So consider saving this stat if ever you come across it when you're grinding for higher level enchants. Next up are the sigils. I use almost the same sigils for boss hunting, TSA, NT, what have you. But for my job sigil, I use the anti-magic. If you have a higher level, the better. Then I also use weakness case. So for this one, I'm only after the attack speed increase. You don't really benefit from the crit rate, you're only after the attack speed. And since you don't really land crits, you can make the most out of this effect. So this saves you from using agi potions or expensive concentration potions while grinding, and you can use a different pet other than Sohi since you already have a higher attack speed. The other sigils I currently use are Impale, Starfall, and Berserk, but if you don't have these, you can prioritize using these sigils instead. The next important thing are your pets. So I mainly use Squidget for grinding since I'm after the damage increase buff, but you can also use Sohi if you're still lacking on attack speed and for better survivability. Next up are the cores. So for the cores, I'm actually using a Holy Light Shield, Mana Length Boost paired with Fiery Weapon, and Core Overload. I prioritize using the Fiery Weapon core since I use Fire Convergence for grinding to get that fire damage increase. But of course, if you don't have these, you can prioritize using the cores listed below. And lastly, another important source of stats that you guys might be overlooking are the costumes. I actually change my costumes every time I go grinding. I'm currently grinding in Ragnarok, which is Large Shadow Demi-Human. You'd have to try using costumes with damage versus shadow enemy and damage versus demi-human stats. Also, it's fine even if you don't transfer the refined stats because your damage will still be higher than the costumes you use with the refined but without the damage versus shadow enemy and damage versus demi-human stats. So just transfer the cards that you normally use over to the costumes that you'll be using for grinding. Then for the cards, I'm actually using double Edgar puppet cards. If you have them, always try using 2 since you'll have more damage versus large enemy stats. Then for the accessories, I mostly have Mantis, but I replaced one of those with the Strategic Archer card, again for the damage versus shadow enemy stat. Don't forget to check your divine armaments as well. For the weapon, you have to use power cutting axe so that axe boomerang has no cooldown, and for the armor, you can use Tears Bless. So, now that we're all geared up, it's time to check if our damage is now maximized for rolling cutter grinding.